Hello and welcome to the video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Fantasy Football Scout's deputy editor Tom Freeman to have a look at his Game Week 1 draft for the 2024-25 season as it is now, with the game just days away. Welcome Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe. Busy few weeks at Scout. We've launched the app. Got the Statsbomb data in the members area now, so lots going on. But looking forward to Friday's deadline.
Yes. Indeed, the reason Tom and me were laughing just then was because we've actually already done this, but there was a technical issue with the sound, so we're going to do it all again. So we're going to try and remember all the wonderful nuggets that we just did. So we're going to do that. Before we do that, just to plug for the members area, lots going on there as you pick up the new season. Lots on tables, the season ticker, sort by difficulty and stuff. And biggest news is that there is a new app, isn't there, at Fantasy Football Scout, which is full of great information at your fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Absolutely. There's got the transfer planner in there. We've got the fixture ticker. There's some good RMT projections in there, which you can have a look at. But it's very much in development. Lots more to come, but there's lots to play around with now. So have a look.
Okay, and just a reminder as well, do press that like button, does help us out, and do remember to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this on YouTube, so you can keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts as well. Also, feel free to leave a wonderful complimentary comment, and if you don't want to leave a wonderful complimentary comment, just don't leave any comment. Okay, let's just go straight in.
Yeah,
here's your team. So I'm going to read it out, and then we'll go back and get your ideas about it.
Great.
So it's a 3-4-3 in game week 1. You've got Henderson in goal, Quansah at Liverpool in the three-man back line with Gabriel, Pedro Porro, and then you've got Saka and Son, and they sandwiched the M23 derby of Eze against Minte from Brighton, and then you've got Isak up front as your captain, Haaland and João Pedro as your third striker, and on the bench, non-playing 4 million goalkeeper, that could be anyone, it just happens to be the Brentford backup. I think it is the Brentford backup anyway. You've got Smith Rowe as your first sub, Barco as your first defender sub, and then Concert as well, ready for game week 3 and Aston Villa's good run as well. So what's your overall thinking with this?
Yes, so I'm remaining flexible with the wild card, but my initial thought is to maybe go in game week 8, which coincides with the second international break. So I think some of the picks make more sense by going with that approach. For example, going with that double Arsenal. I think if you're maybe wildcarding in game week 6, you might not look to invest as much money in a Saka and a Gabriel. But if I'm going to hold off till 8, which I think I might do, they probably make a bit more sense.
Okay, this is probably a good time. I'll just put up this slide of the first 6 fixtures, because this shows a bit about that, thinking about when people are wildcarding as well. So if you're thinking of wildcarding a bit later, sort of game week 7 and 8, which is, I think game week 8 was a quite popular time last season to do it, because it's the second international break as well. So you're thinking there is you want some of these fixture blocks covered. Liverpool have a good a whole bunch of fixtures throughout this 6 fixtures here. Then Man City, it gets a bit tricky round 5 and 6, but then they get Fulham at home, and it's a really nice run from game week 7, I think it is. Tottenham, great first 2, then it gets a bit bleak with Newcastle and Arsenal, and then gets okay again. And same with, and then looking at Arsenal as well. They've got a real mixed bag of fixtures. They've got Aston Villa, Tottenham, Man City away. They do have Brighton, Leicester and Wolves at home as well. So, I mean, going back to your team, you've got a team that can sort of cope with all of those sort of nice fixture runs and hopefully hopping on and hopping off as well. Yeah, I mean, let's go, before we talk about sort of your premiums and Haaland and Saka and Son, and which may make room for others like Salah that you don't have, or Watkins. Let's start with the back. Henderson, 4.5 goalkeeper with a 4.0 dud. What's your thinking there, as opposed to sort of going for David Raya?
Yeah, well, I don't want to spend too much in goal. So I like starting with a 4.5 and a 4.0. And I don't think there are I don't think there's an obvious standout out candidate at 4.5. I think Henderson is probably the best of the bunch there. I think that they improved under Glasner last year at both ends of the pitch. I think they look quite solid in that back three setup with the wing backs. I think the fixtures are they're okay for the first few. Um, you've got Flecken, who would be an alternative, but again, Brentford have got a tough run. I don't see many clean sheets for them, if any at all. They've got a few injuries at the back as well. Areola, the same could be said about West Ham with, Villa and Man City in the first three. So Henderson, I think I'm happy with. Considered Raya. But I think I want that set piece threat from Gabriel or a Saliba. It could be either one of those two players in my draft on Friday. Well, on my team on Friday.
Yeah, I mean that was the sort of a decision I was weighing up, and the conclusion I came to is that yes, obviously Gabriel and Saliba, Gabriel in particular, have that goal threat, and it's worth that 0.5 over David Raya. But there was a whole bunch of defenders that I wouldn't mind having. You've also got Lewis Hall at Newcastle. You've got Gvardiol and Man City as well, and there's a whole bunch of 4.5s that are pretty good. That you can rotate in and out. And then I thought of goalkeepers, and then I just thought, do I really want Henderson away to Brentford, away to Chelsea, home to Manchester United, even at home to West Ham? I wasn't sure about. So that was my option. But then I'm missing out on Gabriel's goal, his clean sheet, his inevitable bonus, and an absolute game-changing haul in your first game.
Yeah, I don't dislike Raya. He was in a draft, I think, last week. But then I kind of look at that and, Villa, Tottenham, Man City away in the first five. I think it's going to be difficult for him to. I can maybe see 2 clean sheets in the first five, but I just think there's a bit of uncertainty in that position for me. So I'm thinking spend as little as possible, and then maybe reanalyze that on a wild card a bit further down the line once those 4.5s are a bit more established and we know where we stand with them.
And speaking of 4.5s, Quansah's in there. Obviously, he's not Trent Alexander-Arnold, but you're paying 7 million for him, and Quansah at 4.5. You feel confident he is nailed on to start then?
Well, I think he'll start the season, and I think beyond that, it's down to his performances. But I think he feels like a good fit for this slot system. I think he's probably ahead of Konate as well. I've got a few concerns about Liverpool defensively and the midfield setup. So rather than pushing at £7 million into Alexander-Arnold, who I do like, but my thinking is at the moment is maybe just give that a bit of time, watch them in action first few weeks, and just to see how what his role is going to be like Alexander-Arnold in that team. Is he going to come inside as much? Is he overlap more? And so I'm happy to get away into that Liverpool kind of clean sheet if they're going to keep one with Quansah at 4.5, and then reanalyze that a few weeks down the line, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and also you've got Barco as your first sub defender, and Quansah as a centre-back. He's unlikely to be subbed on. He's either going to start or he's just not going to play, in which case so if you've got a good defender sub to come on, that will help out. But yeah, like you, I feel pretty sort of 95% confident he's going to start, and that's good enough for me. Especially, it's a really low risk, because if I'm wrong, if we're wrong, well, a Barco away to Everton, he's on set pieces for Brighton. That will do very nicely. In fact, I wouldn't mind starting with Barco. Saka and Son. Before we talk about Minter and Eze and Smith Rowe, who's your first bench, because that's a sort of they sort of come as a package, all those sort of mid-range cheaper mids. But looking at Saka and Son, you've with Haaland as well, you've managed to get 3 premiums into this squad, and it still looks pretty balanced. What's your thinking with Saka and Son? Are you going to have them for the duration, or I imagine Son might move out?
Yeah, that's right, Joe. I mean, I think Saka's in there. I think even those trickier away fixtures are okay for the attackers at Arsenal. I'd be happy to hold Saka, especially if I was on a game week 8 wildcard, because those 6 and 7 fixtures are really good for Arsenal. Son is a little bit more short term. The thinking is with him is that get him for Leicester and Everton, and then potentially, I'm very keen on Watkins from game week 3, and I want to have a route to him in the back of my mind. Plans change. it might not work out, but I at least want a rough plan of somebody that I could sell, potentially drop Son down to a cheaper early season bandwagon who might make me a bit of money as well, and then maybe upgrading João Pedro in game week 3 to Watkins, or if Isak or Haaland aren't performing or anything like that, that's another route to Watkins. But I think João Pedro is the obvious one there. So yeah, that's my thinking with that. But I do like Son for these first two. Everton in game week 2 got a lot of problems at right back at the moment. Coleman was taken off injured at the weekend. Probably be playing Ashley Young against Spurs in game week 2 if he isn't back. Branthwaite hasn't played any minutes in pre-season, so yeah, more than happy to put the money into Son for the first 2 game weeks.
And you prefer that putting the money into Son to tap in Spurs fixtures rather than putting the money into, say, Solanke, because then you've got to find a couple of million more rather than 4 million more to get that third striker spot up to Watkins, and then Son could come down to an 8.5. I mean, Bruno Fernandes, for example, could be an option.
Yeah, looked at Bruno. Yeah, what I want to do is I want to see the press conferences. I don't know when Ange's up, maybe on Thursday, Friday. He was hinting that Solanke was ready. He's had a pre-season with Bournemouth. So if he were to come out and say, yeah, he's gonna start on Monday, then that might change my thinking a little bit. But Son's a great asset to have on that left-hand side. And yeah, I do like the idea of him away at Leicester and home against Everton.
I seem to remember when Van der Ven was signed, and then within 3 days he started.
He was in.
So I think Ange is quite okay with that. And my other thing with Solanke is it's just penalties, because Son strikes me as a sort of a Kevin De Bruyne figure. He's happy to score, but it's not his main thing. He just wants to contribute. He wants to assist. He wants to.
It's going to be the key. I think that is going to be a key part of how we evaluate these two players going forward. Because if you've got Solanke, who's on penalties minutes, I think once Richarlison comes back, you might see a sub 70 minutes. He's going to play more often than not, isn't he? But they've got Europe as well and stuff like that to come. But I think that will be key. If Son were to retain penalties, then I think that's a really big plus for him. But if Solanke takes it off him and he's 2.5 million cheaper, he probably will be the route lots of people go down.
I don't know what it is. This seems to be something. I just think I can see Son handing the ball to Solanke.
Maybe, maybe.
I don't know. That's just speculation. These cheap mids: Minter, Eze, Smith Rowe as well. Obviously, I would imagine Eze is going to play all of them. Crystal Palace, fairly favourable attacking point of view games, but Minter and Smith Rowe, they actually rotate quite nicely. I presume you've obviously spotted that. That's why they're in your team.
Yeah, I think so, Joe. Yeah, I mean, Fulham have got those really nice couple of fixtures against the newly promoted teams in 2 and 3, so he can come in, and that's maybe when I don't want to double up on the Brighton attackers when they've got United and Arsenal. So that he can come in for those. I think Eze, really good option this year on penalties. He's going to take pretty much all the set pieces with Olise gone. I think everything will go through him. So he's been pretty much in my draft for a few weeks now. Minter, I think there's probably a bit of risk there, isn't there, Joe? But with minutes, with starts, but he's looked good in pre-season. And I think given that there's some pretty nailed players in and around him in this setup, I'm happy to take 1 or 2 risks in the first few weeks and try and nail that early bandwagon, because if he comes out and does well at Everton, people will be then bringing him in as a really good option at 5.5.
Yeah, that's always been a popular strategy of yours, for years. Is to, if you're going to take a risk, do it on a differential who's the fourth midfielder. That seems to be quite a good role, because they're often around this sort of price and they can have quite a high ceiling. So I guess, if Minter's not the one, well, Smith Rowe will just come in and just play him every week.
Yeah, I did look at Matoma too, who's looked good in pre-season, but I'm not sure what are your thoughts, Joe? Do you think he'll be worth 1 million more than Minter? He's obviously probably more nailed. He's probably going to play more minutes.
I would say game weeks 4 and 5. The way I look at Brighton is the first week's okay, second 2 are not great, and then 4 and 5 are brilliant at home.
Yeah.
Ipswich and Nottingham Forest. That's when I'd want them. So then we'll know. I think on current pre-season form, Minter will be a match for Matoma, no problem.
Yeah.
So why pay 6.5 for Brighton mid when you can get a good one for 5.5. My only issue with Minter is I don't know how. I think he's going to start the season, but I don't know
Yes.
whether he'll be substituted early, substituted at 60 minutes, be the sub that comes on. At the right on the right wing where he's been playing, you've got a Dingra as well, who was great last season. He looks to be the sort of backup to Minter now. But then you've got Solly March to come back in. I don't, he may come back in. I mean, he is training, so he might be ready by game weeks 4 and 5 when you want Minter. Plus, there's very strong rumours. There's a verbal agreement, apparently, according to Sky News, that Brajan Gruder from Mainz 05 is going to be signed by Brighton. He's a right winger. He's only 20, but he's somewhere that the manager really wants him. So
I think
there's another name in the mix.
Yeah, I think what I've just got to back is that Minter's got that slot game week 1, probably on his pre-season form, and I've just got to hope that he hits the ground running, which I think Brighton will do. I think Herzl is really interesting. I think they could catch a few opponents off guard in the early weeks because they've got such an interesting system, and it might take other teams a while to adapt to them. So I'm happy to start with it, but I am fully aware that that might be something I need to kind of look at in game week 4 or 5 if he isn't nailed on.
No, I mean, as a Brighton fan, but also just as someone who plays FPL, who looks at good 5.5 options, I think Smith Rowe and Minter are probably the best.
Yeah,
and you've gone for both of them. So there's no headache for that decision. Up front, you've got Pedro there. Obviously, you're looking at him potentially to move to Watkins. But can start. So he's got an okay home game, Manchester United. I don't think Brighton will win that necessarily. But I do think they're very capable of scoring against Manchester United at home. You got Isak captain, Haaland. Obviously, you've gone for Haaland rather than Salah as your very expensive player there. I mean, this is a good time to talk about captaincy. Really, I've got a picture I'll put up on screen. That I put up on FPL General's video as well last week. This shows a sort of captaincy matrix, who were the top choices, and this was what I thought at the time. And I still think this, and they're likely backups. So we can see with your team what's going on. So you've got Isak as your captain, and I think he's the top choice against Southampton. But you could captain Salah, you don't have him. You could captain Saka, you do have him. You could captain Son, who's at home to away to Leicester, and Saka at home to Wolves. So you've got lots of captains. Haaland at home to Ipswich, top choice game week 2. He's in your team already. Salah and Son once again is the backup there. So this is going well for your setup. Saka is in your team. I think he is actually the best option at home. I know it's my team, Brighton, but I'm a realist. Saka's really good. I think he's a really good option. But I think Isak at home to Tottenham.
Yeah.
Salah away to Manchester United. Mm-hmm. Watkins, you want him away to Leicester, and Haaland at West Ham. So apart from Salah, at the moment you don't have Watkins, but you're looking to get him in. So would you captain Watkins in game week 3?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, let's see how Leicester look in the first couple of weeks. I do think that you can see them targeting the newly promoted sides in game week 1 with Isak against Southampton, who I think are really going to struggle defensively this year. Leicester maybe not to that same level, but if Spurs go and put 2 or 3 past them in game week 1 on Monday night, then maybe Watkins in game week 3. The penalties are up in the air at Villa at the moment because Douglas Luiz has gone. A lot of people think Tielemans will take the move, think he's going to line up in midfield. I think he's probably the favourite. I wouldn't be shocked after the summer that Watkins had, though, if he were to step up. Okay. It wouldn't, I don't think he's the favourite, but at the same time, I think it's just something to monitor. And let's see. McGinn's also in the mix, I think, but probably Tielemans ahead of him. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Watkins is revealed to be on penalties, that would be huge.
He's not great at them, but it obviously still helps.
I know, I seem to remember doing that. But he's a better player now, I would assume. When I said Isak at home to Tottenham, I think you went, ooh, you made a noise.
Well,
as a
he's
good
got a good
captain.
record against them. They tend to do well against Spurs, don't they? And so, I mean, looking at that matrix, 4 and 5 are the obvious weeks where I don't have Salah at the
Yeah.
moment. I just want to watch Liverpool a little bit, and by game week 4, I might be in a position to maybe move for
Yeah.
somebody. I'm a bit unsure about Jota beyond game week 1. I'd like to see how Diaz fits into that system. So it's a bit of a wait and see for me at the
Yeah.
beginning. It could be costly because the fixtures are very good.
Yeah.
But I do have Haaland at home against Brentford, who can, that's an absolutely
Yeah.
fine captain for me. I might have Watkins by that point. So there's options, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, for the benefit of those listening on the podcast version, Salah, the top choice for captain in game week 4 at home to Nottingham Forest, and in game week 5 at home to Bournemouth. But as Tom pointed out, Haaland at home to Brentford is an option, and Watkins at home to Everton. And Palmer as well could be a merge away to Bournemouth in game week 4. Game week 5, Son at home to Brentford, and Watkins again, which underlines why Watkins is a player to target from game week 3.
Such a good run.
And Salah from game week 4. And that's certainly something I'd like to look at. And I think Haaland would have to make way because I would take a risk not having Haaland in game week 4. I mean, Brentford have got the better of Man City at home traditionally.
Yeah.
And then get him back for game week 7. And Haaland use that money to get a bit of Watkins and Salah in, I think. So that's something I might look at following our chat.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to remain flexible with it, but I think Watkins from game week 3 to 9, I think everybody wants to be thinking about that, or an alternative Villa attacker if Bailey emerges as a good option.
Salah has Wolves away in game week 6, Watkins, Ipswich away, both good options. Leicester face Saka. So Saka against Leicester in game week 6 is my top choice that week. So having all 3 of them would be an aim of mine, I think. We'll just go back to your team, and it looks like you're all set up there. If you've got sort of Watkins in mind to get in, that sort of covers you for captaincy, I think. And you want to wait and see with Salah. Say Salah just is amazing for the first 3 or so, and then he's got that block of Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. How would you get him in, or would that be a wild card time?
Well, it's that Son slot, isn't it? And I know you have to find 2.5 extra million, which could be problematic. And it might involve maybe having to drop down Eze or something. But the reason for Son in that slot is good for the first 2. Then you've got a big chunk of money there, which you can move into another area of the team if you need to. That's the kind of thinking behind the Son pick, I think.
So Salah. With that Son pick. So the reason I say it because you sort of earmarked the Son cash for Watkins.
Yeah.
So if Salah is amazing first 3 game weeks, you would prioritise Salah over Watkins, as a Villa fan.
I'm not totally sure right now, Joe. I think I really need to see what Liverpool are like and where and how Salah's role is going to work and where he's going to play in that team. I'm not too sure at the moment, but I do know that Villa's fixtures from game week 3 to 9 are very, very good. If I get Salah in instead, it's going to be have to cover. I'm going to have to captain him in those game weeks 4 and 5, and I'm not sure if I want to do that just yet. So I mean, it's something to consider.
I mean, I like your Watkins. The reason I asked that question because just while thinking about it, Salah and Watkins I think look great for game week 3 for Watkins, game week 4 onwards. And it's Haaland for me would be the one to make way.
Yeah, he could be. Yeah, he could be
because his fixtures aren't great in 5 and 6, but they pick up again in 7. Yes. So I don't know. It's just something to think about for those listening and watching as well as us. Tom, thanks so much for that. Great to get your ideas for that. I mean, structure wise, I can't see your team changing that much. If there are any changes, what sort of things might change? You think?
Potentially, if I don't want to go for that double Brighton attack, there could be a change in midfield potentially. Okay. I've really got to look at Liverpool and just work out whether I'm comfortable without going with any of their attackers in game week 1. And there's a few other players I'm looking at, Solanke, Gordon, things like that. So there might be 1 or 2 tweaks, but I think structure-wise, I think at the moment this feels
Okay.
like a nice balance.
Okay, well, thanks so much for your time. Good luck with the game week. Good luck with those final decisions. And good luck getting Salah and Watkins in future. And however that will be, but it does sound like you've got contingency plans for that. Thanks for your time. Good luck, and good luck everyone watching and listening. Do press that like button. Do remember to subscribe as well. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Joe.